the go-home show for what we're going to see Sunday at Dynasty. And we started off with Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale going up against Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir. So, Bishop, what did you think of that opening tag match on Dynamite last night?
Well, I mean, first off, I love when a show starts with a match like that, with like a high profile match. You know, with so many times we get a seg one promo, things like that. But I like getting straight to some action. Obviously, they're setting the table for this weekend, but there were a lot of things that went down in that match. We talk about obviously the shock at the end where, Mox hit Willow, like took her out. Like, I mean,
like that's what,
that's what we're going to talk about from that, because that was the shock moment. That was, something you don't see very often. And when done right, it has a great effect.
I remember you hitting End of Days on Becky Lynch and the shock of that and how they sold that. Now, last night was definitely different, but you got to look at the end of the match. And at the end of the match, that you had Swerve going for the house call, Marina Shafir taking it from Swerve, pushing Moxley out of the way and so to me it was kind of like an eye for an eye. Now, one wasn't like Swerve's intention was not to hit Marina Shafir, but he did hit Marina Shafir. So I kind of like the fact that, like, all right, you're going to hit Marina. Well, guess what? I'm going after Willow Nightingale.
Also, like with that, like completely different personalities between the two. Willow's like happy, excited, like always has a smile on her face, comes out, dancing, doing her thing, that people love her. So like when you do that to somebody like that, it's one thing, but Swerve unintentionally delivering that move to someone who's a little more angry, a little more grit. Like, I think there's a separation between the two. It's like punching a tough little kid or like an innocent young girl, giving them one right in the side of the head. Like it makes you feel different when that happens.
Yeah, but I also feel like here that they are telling a bit of a story. Like, you could have just gone with Jon Moxley hitting that DDT on Willow. But if you go back and you really examine it and talk about it, and I didn't think they talked about it enough, especially like Swerve is searching for Moxley, and we'll get to the end of the show where finally Swerve found Moxley. But Moxley could turn around and be like, all right, but did you look what you did to Marina?
Yeah.
Like there's some character development. Might I say, one of the few times in this story of the Death Riders where we've seen some character development from the Death Riders and from Jon Moxley. I wish they would have given us just a little bit more at the end of the show.
Yeah, I think they should have capitalized a little bit more on it, because it's the shock value of it all. Like, that's something you see that less than you see dudes bleeding in the ring. Like, it's one of those things, like, now that's become kind of the, like, let's not touch that, let's not do that, let's not cross that line. So when you do, I think you have to put, the emphasis of an entire show kind of behind that. I think it needs to be replayed. It needs to be talked about again. There needs to be a backstage with people who were not involved in the situation saying, can you believe what we just saw? Whatever it is. And then you see Mox walk by or something. And, they did a good job of having Willow in the training room and talking about, we need an injury update from that. But I think there should have been more push of, like, can you believe he did that? Like, what a horrible person. Because, I mean, when I hit Becky, it was in Philly, and it was still one of the craziest reactions of my career, because it was so just different. It was like the shock of silence when it initially happened, and then like a massive pop, because I can't believe we saw that, into like guttural boos, where I got kind of all three reactions for one thing. And, we stayed there when I did it. I stood over her, and it's the slow turn to Rollins, and it's, calling him a son of a bitch or whatever I said to him. And then he beat the living hell out of me with a kendo stick and curb stomps. He lost it on me, which I think is what you wanted to see from Swerve. You wanted to see Swerve turn around, see that happened, and lose it on him. But, Mox did a great job of getting away, getting out of Dodge, and making you wait on that. So it's going to be interesting to see the comeuppance, the payback, when Swerve actually gets his hands on Mox.
And again, I say she's the MVP almost every week when I talk about Dynamite with Nick, Bishop, Renee Paquette. because I
gold.
love, and they need, now more than ever, Renee needs to be a part of this story, because when she was interviewing Swerve in the back and Swerve is talking all this trash about Moxley, you see the look of disgust on Renee's face, because it's almost like, you're talking about my husband here. And I love the fact that later on, when Renee was trying to catch up with Swerve, like Swerve referenced Moxley to Renee as your husband.
Let's go.
Great job.
God, we never do that enough. Like, people aren't dumb. They're not dumb. And so if you ignore that they're married in real life that's crazy to me. So like when Swerve did that, I even popped because I was watching it and it was like, I'm looking for your husband. I was like, thank you. Like, we're not dumb. We know they're married. And like, for him to say that and get that reaction from her, I think that was a great part of the story.
Because now we finally have kind of like a good story going on here with Swerve and the Death Riders, where Renee could go back and say, if she's interviewing Swerve, well, don't forget, you hit the house call kick on Marina.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not excusing my husband here for what he did, but it was you first that hit the house call kick on Marina Shafir. Like, where she's kind of defending her husband in a way. That would have been great if you got a little. Now, they still could go back to that.
Absolutely.
But
and I think, too, I think with it, like, have Swerve losing his cool, getting angry. I mean, I wouldn't even be mad if he's yelling at Renee and Renee slaps him across his face. That's my husband. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it wouldn't make you mad at her. It would get a good reaction, but it would, I don't know. It just makes it a real life situation.
And what they've done now, too, is, going into Dynasty, I know there's a lot of people that want to see Swerve beat Moxley just to end the Death Rider story. I'm not one of those people. And I know that sounds crazy because I've come on the air and said, I don't understand what Moxley's talking about. I still don't understand what the goals are for the Death Riders. This story seems to be going nowhere, spinning its wheels, and it's the longest running story that AEW's probably ever had. But now I think there's a story here.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I don't want to see Swerve beat Moxley at Dynasty, because I actually want to see this go on, because I think they could go really deep with this. And now you have other players involved, because now you have Marina and Willow, where now Moxley hit a DDT on Willow Nightingale. So now, is Willow going to get involved in this match? Is Willow out completely? Because obviously she needed help last night. Now you're throwing elements into a story where this is the first time we've seen that with somebody going up against the Death Riders. They can extend this a little bit here.
I agree.
I don't know if it makes sense for Swerve to beat Jon Moxley at Dynasty on Sunday.
I mean, I'm a massive Swerve fan, and I would love to see him as champion, but I'm with you. I'm like, let's make him chase it a little bit longer. Like, we're getting this kind of turn for Swerve where he's kind of coming face to face with some of his demons, like we saw with the Hangman promo. Like, there was a common ground there, which was really cool to see. So you're getting different layers to Swerve, I think, through this as well. So now let's see where that goes. And it elevates Willow. Like, people are a massive fan of hers. And now she's in the mix, with major players. And she took, that finish, and is where's the redemption going to come for her? Is she going to play a part a month from now with Mox and Swerve or have another match, and she's the catalyst for the finish, and Swerve gets the win? Like, what kind of dynamic can we play with all of these characters now? Because now you can bring Renee into the mix, and you have the Death Riders, which obviously has a group of people. So who does Swerve bring to the table to kind of combat that, in a sense? So, like, I think you've opened a lot more doors to this story for sure.
And I've been guilty of this as well, Bishop, but like, a lot of people are ultra critical of AEW. And again, I've been very critical of AEW on this air, but I have to say lately, these last couple months, they have been giving you stories. Like, everybody wants to say that, that it's just matches and it's just spots and that has not been the case with this company for the last couple of months. And I think every segment last night, for the most part, had some kind of story attached to it. A little bit of a continuation from the week before that makes you want to tune into next week's show, makes you want to tune into the pay-per-view. I can't give AEW enough credit for at least trying to tell stories that get you emotionally connected with the characters and then make you want to watch the match.
I want little details to make sense. I want little things to, for me, a thing I would pick on AEW last night is like when they cut to the training room where Willow's getting her neck, they're like in this tiny, tiny little closet. Like, to me, that doesn't look like a big production shot. Like, to me, that needed to be like a legit training room. There needed to be other people in the background moving around. And you're getting that from Swerve. Like, instead, you're hyper focused on Swerve talking to Renee, but I'm looking at this little training room and it's driving me crazy because the table barely fits in there. And like those little things, or like in the Hangman, like the security, like when we can fix those little details, like I think it's going to crush because they're figuring out all of the other stuff with the stories, and the talent is telling the stories. And it's been fun to watch these last few months for sure.
And I think you're right, Bishop, in the fact that they got to tighten the screws a little bit. We said that early on with AEW, but I think it's even a little bit more glaring because, like, even in that opening contest, the tag match, they had a big table spot and completely missed the table spot because the camera's on, something that's going on in the ring, and then you completely miss somebody going through the table. You mentioned the security guards. The security came out there and holding them back. The way they were holding them back, the timing of them coming out, it felt off, and it was unnecessary.
100%. It took away from the shot for me. Yes. No, because I mean, Hangman came through the curtain hot. You could tell he was hot, but like we have no threat of violence yet. They're not too close. Swerve's mind is on something completely different than Hangman. So like I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why the security came chasing after him. At first I was going, maybe he's not supposed to be in the building for some reason. Like I'm trying to make it make sense in my head to why that security was running behind him. And in my head I'm going, oh, maybe he was like banned from the building for some reason. Like just trying to figure it out in my brain. But it's those little things. And when they get those clicking, and it's hard, man. You can't learn or figure this shit out overnight. It takes years. It takes time. But they're making progress now, which is what I think is exciting.
And they're throwing little seeds. They're planting seeds, which is what you do when you're telling a good story. And I thought they did that last night because, and we used to see this back in the day with the WWE where two people hate each other. And then a week later, they like each other and they're teaming up. And it's like, wait a second, you're going to forget the last year when they're having this massive feud. And now all of a sudden, because you want to throw them together, we're supposed to completely forget their past. Yeah. I like how they did that last night with Hangman and Swerve. Where like Hangman's like, you're getting what you deserve. And then Swerve's like, I agree. Like he agreed. Yeah. I was like, wow, that was a strong moment.
It was, and they played it perfect too, because you could even see like the shock on Hangman's page when he said, or on his face when he said it. Like it was like, wait, did I hear that right? Like what? And then like he had nothing else after that. Like what? Like they did a great job of him just walking off instead of beating that to death. Being like, I think that was perfect because it's the same thing as like, if you're getting yelled at by your boss, you're like, hey, my bad, I made a mistake, and they're like they were like waiting for you to argue or combat what they just said, and instead they're like, no, you're right, man, my bad. I do it with my wife all the time. I just try to mess with her. She's like, oh yeah, sorry babe, I didn't mean to do that, I'll take care of it now. And they're like, wait, what? Like they wanted to fight, they wanted to go, and it's a good mind game. But like they played it perfect last night with that.
Let's get into what we saw with MVP Bobby Lashley and MJF, Bishop. And again, this is a story that's been getting very, very interesting because now it's definitely causing a rift between MVP and Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley.
I mean, I don't think so much Shelton Benjamin, but I think Bobby's the one that is, or Bob, as MJF said, is Bob. Him using first names was killing me, dude. It was so funny just because it's just so, I don't know, out of the ordinary. He's just like, hey, Bob, like that got me. But like, yeah, you can see that there's, I don't know if it's a jealousy thing. I mean, nobody's jealous of Bobby's coat that he was wearing last night with his little sash on it. But I mean, is he, a little jealous that MVP's got some eyes for MJF and what he brings to the table and the addition he would be to the Hurt Syndicate? Like, there's going to be some fun stuff to tell through that story. And you again, you have the learning tree with Bill and Brian Keith. Like, real life is relatable because people have been through this shit. So when they talk about Shelton Benjamin not making the flight because of weather, obviously terrible weather out there, and people were getting worried and he didn't make it, they brought it up. Like, it's okay to do that. And I thought that was great because now instead, as all companies have done it, we're just going to ignore that. Like, because I've seen it. I've been on WWE TV and something happens and a talent doesn't make it and we just ignore it. We don't address it. We don't address that their flight was canceled because there was possible tornadoes. And they did that last night. They gave you the reason why he wasn't there. Everybody's had a flight canceled. They know how frustrating it is. You can't be mad about that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand. So bringing these real life things that are really happening, Mox and Renee being married, like, that is relatable to the fans. They can connect to that. They understand that. And we're giving you a reason why this is not here. Shelton Benjamin is not standing in the ring with the Hurt Syndicate because of this, instead of, where is he?
And it really, I love how the fact that like Shelton and Bobby Lashley were off TV for a couple weeks. And what did they do? All right, we're just going to, put a pause on this and wait till they come. No, they used MVP and MVP having conversations with MJF while they were gone. And I think that's going to cause animosity. If you have a long-term relationship with an agent or a manager, and then while you're away, they're talking to another client, that's going to bother you, especially one as young and talented as MJF.
Yeah, and I think with it too, like, Bobby said it in a promo maybe last week or the week prior. He said, you told us to take a vacation. So now they're like planting a seed that this was planned the whole time.
Yeah.
That MVP wanted to get to MJF without the boys around. Like, it's one of those things. Oh, you told me to go do this. Like, so, what is your thought process? What are you thinking in connecting with him when we're gone and you told us to be gone?
And listen, no disrespect to Lashley or Shelton Benjamin, but hey, man, they're at the tail end of their careers. MJF is still in his 20s. He's got a long way to go. So if you're MVP and you got to start thinking about your future, am I going to stick with two guys that in 5 years may not be wrestling anymore? Or am I going to latch on to somebody who's probably going to be doing this for another 15 to 20 years?
Yeah.
It makes sense. And that is going to come out. And at some point, and you talk about realism, I'm sure at some point, Bobby Lashley's going to say to MVP, it's either him or us.
Yeah. Has to.
And if you're MVP, who are you going to choose? You're probably going to choose MJF if you had to choose.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like with that, like all the guys do it. Like you saw what Paul Heyman has done. Like he chose Roman Reigns. He was the next big thing. Now, you see things, is Paul Heyman trying to get his fingers on Braun Breaker? You see that he's helping him outside of, the TV show. So like he's looking to the next younger leader of the generation that's coming up. And so that's what MVP's doing. He's a smart businessman. There's a reason MVP's been in this industry for so long. I mean, Bobby has too. Like, let's be real. Bobby hasn't aged since he was 17 years old. He looks unbelievable. Shelton, they still move like they did 20 years ago. But there's going to come a time where they can't do it or don't want to do it anymore. And that if you're MVP, you don't want to be left out in the cold. And so I think he's planting seeds and he's trying to grow those plants into something that he can carry and be a part of for the next 20 years.
And I love what you said too. And it's so funny because it's not, you're not used to hearing it. Max referring to everybody by their first name, because you know what? When you're talking to people, that's how real people talk in a conversation.
Yeah.
You don't, like if you're talking to me, you're not saying, well, Dave LaGreca. Nobody does it. Nobody talks to people by referring to them by their full name. In wrestling, it happens all the time. It was actually jarring to hear Max referring to everybody by their first name.
Yeah, absolutely. But like also the way he does it, it has like a bit of like, it just kind of feels like that, like, oh, bless your heart. Like, it's kind of a dig, but it's also like being polite. Like, that's what it felt like coming from him, which I think, is an attribute to his talent and how he can just irritate people. And, again, like I said, when he just said, all right, Bob, like that was so good.
He's a dick.
So good. And it's just the way he said it. And like, I don't know, man. I loved it. I loved it. And like, I want to see where it goes. You had the other two. You had Bill and Brian come out after. I don't know why Big Bill's always so angry, and every time you see him, he's angry. He walks out the curtain. He's angry. The match is over. He's angry. He shot puts a dude from the ring to the floor, and he's angry. I don't get it. Take us on a ride. Don't just start at 10. Like, that's one of those things. And like, look, I said, I'm a details guy. It drives me nuts when dudes come out angry. Outside of like a brawl, I'm coming to fight you and we're going right to it. Like, why are you angry? Why is Big Bill coming out seeing these two guys in the ring that are a quarter of his size and he's livid already? Like, so when he was mad seizing at the end, when MVP and them just walked off and didn't give him an answer about the trio stuff, he's angry. And I'm going, well, you were already angry. Like, what do I give a shit about this? Like I get like when Mox and them come out serious, but they still take you on a little bit of a ride. Like there's different changes of emotion. Like, you gotta give me that. Like, I know not everybody's coming out smiling, but like, why are you mad?
Yeah, he's
go fight two people that we've never seen before. You know what I'm saying?
Enhancement talent. They were enhancement.
Yeah,
talent.
I mean, he even said like, "Oh, last week we beat these dudes. This week we beat those guys." Like, didn't even know their names. But then, so why are you so angry? Like, that should have been fun for you. You were showing off for MVP and Bobby. Lift the dude up, smile. This is a good time. See you later, bro. Like, you just, I don't know. It makes me angry sitting here.
And it actually would add to the story because Chris Jericho said, hey, Chris Jericho's been disappointed with Big Bill and Brian Keith. So have Big Bill having fun, like just destroying these two people, because there's no stress in this situation.
No.
Like, there's two guys you're going to beat the shit out of. So have fun beating the shit and then get frustrated and angry because MVP and the Hurt Syndicate are going to make you.
Yeah, because you even saw like Bobby, like when Bill threw the kid to their feet, Bobby smiled. Like, what if he was standing there just like stone-faced angry? Like, it wouldn't make sense. He smiled at that, and it gives you personality.
And no disrespect, and because you got to listen. There's things that certain people can't. There's certain things that I can't do. Like, I'm not athletic at all. If we have a pickup game of basketball and you pick me on your team, you fucked up. So
it'd be the last pick, but
it would definitely be the last pick. But you would still. I'm better off just talking shit and being on the sidelines. Please, for the love of God, and he's extremely athletic. He's a presence. Don't put a microphone in Big Bill's hands. Please let Jericho do the talking. Let Brian Keith do the talking. Don't let Big Bill do the talking. Because when they do, it's just like it's too easy to mock. You're just leaving the door open for the Hurt Syndicate to just run right through. So leave the talking to Jericho. Leave the talking to Brian Keith. And Big Bill's talented. There's no doubt.
Ton of talent.
He's just.
But he is good on the mic, though. But he is. I've seen it for 12 years. I mean, we were in NXT together. Like, he can go, but it's like, if you're just angry and yelling into the microphone, I don't give a shit.
All right, so now
he's entertaining. Be entertaining.
All right, so and that's interesting that you said that, because I haven't seen that side of him in AEW, and then when he was with the WWE, I didn't see it in the feud that he had with Bryan Danielson, and obviously when he was with Enzo was really the mouthpiece for that group. So that's interesting you said that, because I honestly have not seen that side of Big Bill.
Yeah, I mean, there was times like thousands of promo classes. He's entertaining, dude. He's funny. Let that shine through. Like, I think that's like when Braun Strowman started to get over, is that fun, big giant man who wasn't just tipping semis over, breaking cellos and singing And like, he was no longer just angry, big Braun Strowman. Like, he started to be funny because he's funny. He's witty. He thinks he can sing really good. So he goes out and sings. And, you know, with that match with Elias where they broke all the instruments, like, it became fun. And that's what you kind of like gravitate. Like, and Cena's the world's greatest at it. When he cut the promo on Cody talking about it's not, you know, the placement of your tattoo. And then he completely changes tone. And he's like, it's what it stands for. Like, basically just calling him a mark for himself. Like, but the way he delivered it, it wasn't like, we have heel Cena and he's not out there just angry yelling at people. Like, he's still Cena, who's the absolute best on the microphone. And you have to be able to and like, dude, when I came in, my promos were trash. I'm fully aware of it. I'm very self-aware. I was never good at them in the beginning, and I had to figure out how to do it and how to take you on that ride, and learning from Dusty, changing the inflection, not shouting into the microphone. Like, there's so many things to it that even if you're not the greatest promo, you can start to do little things that will cover up your flaws of it, and which is what I had to kind of learn. Like, again, I came from football or boxing or whatever it is where we're showed no emotion, don't show any emotion, don't bring your feelings into it, to now where that's 100% what it is. Take me on that emotional ride, make me have fun, tell me a story. And so, like, learning how to do that. And if you're just angry, again, and I repeat myself, I don't care.
Was that the toughest thing for you, making the transition to being a pro wrestler, is talking on the mic?
I mean, yes, but with emotion. Like, I can rattle off and I can go. Interviews, I've done interviews since I was, 12 years old, playing football at college, doing panels after the games, talking to ESPN, whatever it is, all of those things, newspapers, articles, NFL, same thing. But you're doing it without emotion, because you don't want to be like, if you're playing a team, you don't want to bring emotion into it. Or if you're hurt, you're banged up, you don't want to show that emotion. So yes, now taking someone else's words, making them my own, and adding my real raw emotion to it was the hardest part, for sure.
Yeah, but you got so good at it. But it takes time, and it's reading the room too. I would think it's.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what John's, again, I've learned so much from Cena, where it is, hey, not every audience is going to react to certain things. And just because something garners a reaction from you doesn't mean it's going to garner a reaction from the crowd. Like, there are little things, like Carmella one time was like, I'm going to take a football shot at you. And I go, it may work, it may not work, because some wrestling fans are football fans, some are not. So they may not get it. And he hit it, and the crowd reacted huge for it, about being cut from the NFL. He's like, I can't believe that worked. And I go, it's not going to work everywhere, but it kicked ass tonight. So there are things where it is read the room. But then when they made me Constable, dude, I'm getting 3-page promos. It was sink or swim. I had to do it. And it pissed off the entire world, because there would be 5 of them in a show, or 8 segs of an 11-seg show. I'm in it, making people hate me and crazy, and everybody like just guttural boos when my music hit. But like, I had to learn to do the promos, or I was in that character. It wouldn't have worked, and I probably would have been out of a job 8-9 years ago.
It's interesting. I have so many questions when it comes to that in your career, because you have still, I mean, what you're doing now is fantastic, and now you have that freedom to be Bishop Dyer. And I'm sure, just like with Nic Nemeth, you spend a long time in one company, and you're not that you have limitations, but you're in a box, and now that box is completely open for you to have this second career.
Yeah, but without that box, I wouldn't have the ability to do it now my own way. Like, because I still understand, like, you can give a guy a mic and say, hey, go cut a 2-minute promo. And they're going to do 4 minutes. They're going to repeat something. They're going to change something. Like, it's not going to make sense. They're going to get lost in their own words. So when you learn in that box of like, here's your verbiage, here's the story we're telling, to where it gets to where Vince is like, hey, here's your bullet points. Tell your own story in between, which is what I always learned from Cena. Like, hit your bullet points, but kind of freestyle a little bit to make it you. And like, WWE gives you that platform so that now I can do that. And when I look at other things like that, I see what's wrong with it, and it makes me crazy. Or, there's so many things. There's so many details to a good promo. But I know what I don't like.